Hey, everybody, really excited to speak with Ryan today, who just went from nursing to one of the top tech companies in the world, breaking in as an SDR. Ryan, really excited to share your story today. And as a starting point, maybe paint the picture of where you were before looking at and breaking into tech sales and what kind of piqued that interest in the first place.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, guys. It's great to be here. I've watched a few of these videos coming up, and it's interesting to be in the position to speak to it now. But yeah, so I'm a prior nurse, ICU and ED experience. Actually, got into clinical research too, but just really found myself doing that for six plus years, and really wanted to change. Wanted something that had more, career growth, financial growth, just set my family up for success, which is why I started looking into sales in particular, but in particular tech sales, because with the nursing you can do medical, you can do pharma. Not to say anyone in healthcare couldn't, but the whole not so remote aspect of that really was unappealing to me with having a family and kids. So started diving deep into technology sales of software of all kind, and did what I do best, which is go to YouTube and do my learning there. And that's where, Eric popped up with some clear, concise, and honest videos. And I just really vibed with that. So started looking a little deeper and ended up, picking higher levels and joining a course and taking it and eventually getting a job. So here I am.
No, it's awesome, man. And like credit to you, that's kind of a natural progression we see as people start to educate. I mean, even when I was an engineer, I considered going back to school, looking at different career paths, and that's kind of where this question is coming from. I'm curious what your mindset was and what kind of the path was of, hey, I need to do something different than healthcare. Did you do a lot on your own? And what ultimately went into that decision to say, hey, I do want to invest in some training?
Yeah, so definitely started looking, across the board. Really a lot of YouTube, a lot of Reddit. I just like reading Reddit. It tends to have a good, perspective. Online and of course LinkedIn. And I just found myself surrounded by like all this noise, and I was like, I don't really know like what to follow here. It was just too much. Looked into it like loosely another course, but saw that there was kind of like often with those there's kind of like one guy doing it, one founder. And for me, seeing you two doing it, I was like, well, it's two people's feedback, and what they're teaching seems to be like, clear, concise, and breaking through the noise. So that's why I went with it, right? I like the fact that you guys were clear and concise, and you guys were breaking through what I seemed as like just too much information. So I guess you could say the reason I really liked it was just because I thought it was going to help me prioritize on what actually mattered. And then I also saw that, you guys had live calls going on, so I could jump on with you, and, that was a huge value. And the other factor was I felt like you guys were offering good value for the price. And at the time in my life, that really made a big difference. So, I just appreciated the info and joined it. And I actually thought it painted a really nice picture of how to get, into a sales role and actually do it like probably the right way. Um, so yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, you definitely did it the right way. Drata, I know we were talking about this just briefly, but Drata is kind of like my arch nemesis, who I sold against for like, yeah, 8 months, and it was torture. It was a lot of hell. So very tight competition, but it's a very esteemed and like highly acclaimed spot to work. So it's not just a small feat to get into that. I guess now that you've been through, the course, the program, the coaching, is there a specific part of it that you feel like maybe changed the game a little bit more than the rest? Like maybe a specific area where it was like, yeah, this just kind of changed everything, and this is when I started getting results.
Yeah, you guys have the a few things that stand out. First is how to like peruse through a company and actually find the decision makers, which obviously comes with practice. And I personally found that actually, what you taught on LinkedIn was a really good setup for also actually like paying for the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, just with the extra features. I thought it just like went like a little bit above in terms of the ability to do more quickly. But the way that you like taught how to actually prospect in without having sales experience, to me, was like one of the key things. And then you guys also have like obviously so many templates to get started in terms of messaging, which is one of the huge, things that you need to do to be able to get a role, an SDR role, because you need to tailor it to yourself. But like, it's either you come up with it out of your head or you go to Chat GPT, which, that message is always going to suck, to be honest. But having someone that has done it like you guys, and then have like a good base of like where to start and just be clear, concise. I just added to that and did it in my own way, and then sent it off like you guys had taught on the LinkedIn, and then kept it organized with how you guys kind of made your own CRM with within a Google Sheet, was it? So it kept me organized and ready to go, and it just gave me the confidence that I was doing, the right things. So even if I was getting shot down, like I applied in kind of like 2 batches, the first rounds were not good for me, but it gave me confidence, to like just push through, keep going, just keep reiterating on rounds, 2 and whatever more might be needed. But I liked all that stuff, and there's even more that I didn't use as much as I probably should have, which is the cold call stuff. Probably would have got into that a little bit more had I been seeing less success with the messaging on specifically application round 2. So
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody's kind of different. That's why we try to stress like, hey, some people just really lean toward emails, which actually is more so me. Some people just pick up the phone and cold call. And, it's like we always tell people, the more uncomfortable you're willing to get, the more and the faster results you're going to get. But there's absolutely no discounting. Like you can be successful with any of these strategies. So 100%. And you're in an interesting position because I think you had another offer apart from Drata. We don't have to get into like what the specific offer was or anything else, but I would be curious, like as you were going through the process with other companies, Drata is a top company, right? It's kind of like a unicorn startup. How do you feel like Drata's interview process kind of differentiated versus some of those other companies?
Right. Yeah. So what you guys teach about the interview process is very much how it goes. How that interview process went was they were pretty highly diligent, I would say, with like the amount of interviews there actually were, and really just like how thorough each like the exercise was. Like it was an email to a prospect type exercise, and doing like some account research in advance really helped with that. So that would be a piece of advice I'd give. But yeah, that's kind of how it was. It was, like I said, a lot. I had like, I think it was 5 rounds of interviews total, which you could look at it and say that's kind of annoying, just because, you're not getting paid. But at the same time, then that you're getting into a company that actually like does the due diligence. And having been at places that just kind of take anyone, I can guarantee you that's the place you want to be, the one that's doing the due diligence. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
I respected it.
And nice. No, I'd love to take a step back too. And for anyone that's watching out there, again, we're not the people to say, hey, sales is for anyone and everyone. But I do think there's a lot of people that would think in your situation, hey, I'm a nurse. Like, how the heck do I even break into tech sales? So maybe a couple of questions just about your background and that transition to convince a company that you are a fit and succeed in these interviews. First and foremost, like standing out with applications, even getting interviews in the first place. Did you encounter any resistance to like, hey, you have no relevant experience, and how did you ultimately overcome that to get several different interviews?
Yeah, so to be honest, like it did not come up that much in the interview, but I think it's because the way I went about like the messaging was kind of like above and beyond, I think, right? Because it was basically an initial outreach. I would do like an email and a LinkedIn, and there was like it would be the LinkedIn and the PM after I was working. And then I'd set up like a schedule send maybe like 7 a.m. I don't know, for an email, just like put it like really in front of them, same message, but like, and then I'm attaching, the resume, right? Which, you guys have the resume help, and that really got it to a place where it looked not terrible. Not saying, because it's not the right experience technically. But it's all about how you pitch it. And then the other thing was like doing a really diligent 30, 60, 90 / like, here are some templates I'm writing out. I think I can do the job. Give me a chance kind of thing. So like, I feel like if you go about it that way, they're less likely to be like, oh, well, it's not applicable experience. Cause like, you're already kind of showing So you kind of just like get past that. That's what I tried to do. I don't really want to talk about it.
No, that's fair, man. That's cool. And maybe a question on that as well. Instead of so much, it sounds like once you get into the interviews, obviously your performance kind of spoke for itself, and that's what a lot of people struggle to see. I think from the outside looking in is like, hey, if you're actually running this like a sales process, if you're showing the successful traits of what an SDR already does, it almost subconsciously takes care of a lot of those concerns. Maybe a question towards the final round interviews. I know you mentioned there were several stages. I imagine you maybe had mock calls, presentations, something of that nature. Never having done that in tech before, any advice you'd give to anyone who has no tech experience or sales experience? What did you do to prepare? How did you ultimately succeed and set yourself apart as the best candidate in some of those more intense final round presentation, mock call types of interviews?
Yeah, so for sure, off the bat, stand out. I did what I just said, and then when it came to the interviews, I would, you have the typical like, why are you leaving your industry? Like, why sales, why this company? So I would take that and maybe like one or two more like super easy questions, and just like, you know, started writing it out, started thinking about it, and then the real key is to record yourself on your phone, video and audio. Maybe do audio first, then video. But like, it's such a quick feedback. Like you just and you hate it, or you hate watching yourself on the film. So you have to get better, like for yourself, but also because if you can like do it to yourself and just like record yourself and rehash those, like you do that a few times, like I don't know, 3 times you get it perfect. Like it's gonna be way easier in an interview experience when like your stress is up and got all the stress hormones going on. So that was, I guess, how I went about it in the interview stage. Now, like as I was maybe building up to the interview, and then also post interview, a lot of it was like messaging. I would just be super like intense about the messaging, but like not like overwhelming. And when I say intense, I mean like to start off before an interview, I'd send like a, hey, we haven't met before, but my name's Ryan. Like, that's why I'm here. Like, these are my documents that I sent everyone else. And like, I look forward to meeting you. And then after, just doing the same thing. And then I think, well, a part that really stood out as well is when I got to the like last round, right? It was an exercise uh, assessment and last round. So like highest, it was like SVP. Um, I had sent him prior, messages, just like looping him in, kind of like I was like multi-threading, like, hey, like no response needed, but like just a heads up, like this is what we did, and like looking forward to meeting you eventually. And then when I saw him, right, there was a bunch of like pre messages that like we didn't really conversate too much, but like he knew I wasn't a straight potato, which I think helped like a lot, just like grease the grooves of the conversation. And it was all of it added up, and I think that's why it went so well with Drata specifically. The key is being able to do it for multiple companies. That's the hard part.
Yeah, and I think that strategy right there, I think it's just about, you don't have to like think outside the box completely, but you're doing all these things that other people aren't, right? And especially in a competitive process with a company like Drata, like that is how you stand out. Because yeah, there's 10, 15, if not more, just killers that are maybe like just like yourself, but they're just not doing these tiny little things that separate you versus these other people. And so even the fact that he knew who you were, and I love the fact that you said no response needed. That's just like such a subtle way to be like, hey, I'm gonna make it there and we're gonna chat. So I love it. Maybe in closing, any tips, maybe if we're looking back on the journey, or like if you could go back in time, give your younger self some piece of advice, or maybe other people out there who are in a similar position as yourself, or who are considering tech sales or tech sales ascension, anything you want to leave them with?
Yeah, I would say, as kind of Eric says in a lot of his videos, just like you really do have to get started. Like don't do the whole procrastinate, like prepare to a level of where you're confident, and then start. Because like how you start might not be how you finish. It's really the key of starting. And one of the things that kind of kicked things into gears was Eric like posted this YouTube video, like not a rant per se, but like a call to action. Like you must be messaging these people. Like you are wasting your time if you're not. Like just blatantly, honest. And and I was like, yeah, what am I doing here? Like, just get going. And so I did. And then, I sucked the first round, and then, improved the messages and the process for the second. And, in a third round, maybe, which, might be the next role in a handful of years, 5 years, Drata, if you're listening, or more. Um, I, I think it's about getting it down, systematizing it, and then putting in the work. Like that's also key. Like I asked for a lot of help, from like family and just time commitment. Like I have to do this, spouse, like please help with these other things. And yeah, that's what you have to do. Like don't be afraid to reach out for help from those that care about you. Put in the work and just get started. I would say when it come down, that's what it comes down to.
Nice. I love it. No, I mean, your results speak for themselves. So Ryan, huge congrats. I mean, we're obviously super stoked that you chose higher levels. We've been super impressed with every single step of the journey and just like how diligent that you've been, how you've thought outside the box. And, it's cool. Like we can give you the blueprint and kind of like what you need to do, but you took it, you made it your own. And, I think credit where it's due 100%. So we're going to drop Ryan's LinkedIn down below. So Ryan, if you're not too busy ramping into Drata, or if you're not like already 300% to your number and just too busy taking calls and different things, definitely hit him up. There's a lot of gold in here. But no, Ryan, this is great. Appreciate you. And Eric, I don't know if you have any.
No, I appreciate it. And also, if I may say, for the internal, times in the higher level community when I actually wanted and needed the help, you guys were certainly there for me. Like I remember Eric and Chris, you guys sent like some, first off, timely messaging, and then also extremely detailed. So thank you for that. And that is really appreciated.